They say the scariest stories are the true ones. Tonight, we open the door to another realm where Reddit users share the bone-chilling, the unexplained, the horrifying. What you're about to hear are real events, written by real people, experienced in the shadows of ordinary life. Real stories, real people, real terror. This is your descent into Reddit horror, a compilation of terrifying encounters that will keep you up all night. Story 1. The Girl with the Butcher Knife. It was supposed to be a harmless late-night run, nothing more than greasy fries, a burger, and a soda to kill our hunger after a night of aimless driving and teenage boredom. There were 3 of us, me, my cousin Nate, and his friend CJ. We were 17 and stupid. Sneaking out of the house just after 1 a.m. was kind of a thrill, but in the dead of night, even the simplest things can feel off, distorted, like the world has tilted just slightly in the wrong direction. We pulled up to the Jack in the Box, empty parking lot, fluorescent sign flickering like a dying star. The drive-through was closed, naturally, so we had to go inside. That's when I noticed her, standing just behind the counter, barely visible in the dim light filtering from the back. At first I thought she was a worker, but something was wrong. She didn't move. She wasn't doing anything, just standing there, still, watching. Subtle swell and background tension music. Nate nudged me. "Yo, you see that girl?" She stepped forward into full view. That's when we saw the knife. A big gleaming butcher knife, clutched in both hands down by her sides. Her eyes vacant, skin pale. Her expression was blank, like someone had erased all human emotion from her face. But the scariest part? She was sipping a kid-sized drink through a pink straw, slowly, methodically. A butcher knife in one hand, a cartoon cup in the other. We froze. None of us said a word. It was like the fear had made us part of the wallpaper. She just stood there, sipping and staring, not at anything in particular, just through us. CJ whispered, "She's not real, man." But she was. We backed out, slowly, trying not to make noise. I swear the sound of the door closing was the loudest thing I've ever heard. We got into the car and locked the doors instantly. Sound, car locks clicked. Deep breath. Engine struggles to start. I look back. She was gone. Not walked away, gone. Not disappeared into the back. Just gone. Like she had been vacuumed out of reality. We sped off, hearts pounding, laughter trying to mask the fear. What the hell was that? Was that a prank? Who holds a knife like that? But none of us had an answer, only questions. Slight pause, then continue. Later that night, CJ texted us a news article. A girl matching her description had been seen earlier that week threatening someone with a butcher knife. Same height, same black hoodie, same dead eyes. Police never found her. And to this day, every time I walk into a fast food joint late at night, I look behind the counter just in case, because sometimes nightmares don't wait for you to fall asleep. Story 2. The pizza man returns. You never expect danger to arrive wearing a branded cap and holding a pizza box. It started like any other Friday. I was home alone, curled up in pajamas, watching reruns of a show I didn't even like anymore. Craving comfort food, I ordered from my usual pizza place. About 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find a new delivery guy. Younger, friendly, in a way that felt too familiar. His smile lingered too long. His eyes scanned the room behind me, but I ignored it, tipped him, closed the door. Then the messages started. Hope you liked the pizza. No name, no number, just that text. I figured maybe it was a friend playing a joke. I brushed it off until I got another one the next night. I remember those pajamas. Now I was freaked. I asked the pizza place who the new driver was. They said no one new had worked that shift. No one matched my description. Weeks passed. I stopped ordering. I moved on, or tried to. Then winter hit. One night my dog started barking frantically. I looked out the window. Snow falling, porch empty. But in the morning, there was blood, streaks in the snow, scratches on the door frame. My dog's mouth was stained red, not from injury, but from biting something. Security footage showed everything. The same man standing motionless outside my door for 10 minutes. Then he tried the handle, then the window. That's when my dog launched through the flap and bit him. He didn't fight, just backed away, slowly, smiling. Police found duct tape, rope, and a knife in his trunk, and a printed screenshot of my social media profile. He hadn't been a pizza delivery driver, just a predator wearing a borrowed hat. Now, I don't open my door without checking twice, and I never order delivery at night because monsters don't always knock. Sometimes they bring dinner. Story 3, the photographer in the dark photography has always been a hobby of mine. I liked capturing moments, candid smiles, sleepy cats, old neon signs, beauty in the mundane. One fall evening, I got this itch to go shoot some nighttime urban decay shots. Abandoned buildings, forgotten roads, the beauty of neglect. So I packed my camera and headed to a local spot, an old shuttered post office at the edge of town. It was one of those buildings that had been left to rot, vines climbing its brick skeleton, windows shattered long ago. I stepped in through a broken side entrance, careful not to trip over debris. Inside, it was dark. My flashlight danced across layers of dust and remnants of forgotten letters. I began shooting. Click, click, click. The silence made every sound feel cinematic, haunting. That's when I noticed something. In one shot, taken through a broken window pane, there was a figure at the far end of the room. I hadn't seen anyone. I hadn't heard anything, but the camera saw him. Zooming in, it was clearly a man, standing, watching. I turned sharply, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Empty. But when I checked the next photos I took, he was getting closer. Shot after shot, he was inching forward, frame by frame. I never saw him move, never heard a step. Then the shutter clicked, but this time the flash went off. And for a split second, I saw him. A pale face, mouth slightly open, eyes reflecting light like a cat's. Just feet away, I ran, tripping over rubble, gasping for breath, nearly losing my gear. I burst out into the night, heart thundering like a drumline. I didn't look back, not until I got home. When I loaded the memory card, the last photo was of me. Not me running, not me scared, just me, standing still, looking into the lens. The angle suggested someone else had taken it. I never went back to that post office, and now when I take pictures, I always check who or what is already watching. Story 2. The pizza man returns. You never expect danger to arrive wearing a branded cap and holding a pizza box. It started like any other Friday. I was home alone, curled up in pajamas, watching reruns of a show I didn't even like anymore. Craving comfort food, I ordered from my usual pizza place. About 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find a new delivery guy. Younger, friendly, in a way that felt too familiar. His smile lingered too long. His eyes scanned the room behind me, but I ignored it, tipped him, closed the door. Then the messages started. Hope you liked the pizza. No name, no number, just that text. I figured maybe it was a friend playing a joke. I brushed it off until I got another one the next night. I remember those pajamas. Now I was freaked. I asked the pizza place who the new driver was. They said no one new had worked that shift. No one matched my description. Weeks passed. I stopped ordering. I moved on, or tried to. Then winter hit. One night my dog started barking frantically. I looked out the window. Snow falling, porch empty. But in the morning, there was blood, streaks in the snow, scratches on the door frame. My dog's mouth was stained red, not from injury, but from biting something. Security footage showed everything. The same man standing motionless outside my door for 10 minutes. Then he tried the handle, then the window. That's when my dog launched through the flap and bit him. He didn't fight, just backed away, slowly, smiling. Police found duct tape, rope, and a knife in his trunk, and a printed screenshot of my social media profile. He hadn't been a pizza delivery driver, just a predator wearing a borrowed hat. Now, I don't open my door without checking twice, and I never order delivery at night because monsters don't always knock. Sometimes they bring dinner. Story 3, the photographer in the dark photography has always been a hobby of mine. I liked capturing moments, candid smiles, sleepy cats, old neon signs, beauty in the mundane. One fall evening, I got this itch to go shoot some nighttime urban decay shots. Abandoned buildings, forgotten roads, the beauty of neglect. So I packed my camera and headed to a local spot, an old shuttered post office at the edge of town. It was one of those buildings that had been left to rot, vines climbing its brick skeleton, windows shattered long ago. I stepped in through a broken side entrance, careful not to trip over debris. Inside it was dark. My flashlight danced across layers of dust and remnants of forgotten letters. I began shooting. Click, click, click. The silence made every sound feel cinematic, haunting. That's when I noticed something. In one shot, taken through a broken window pane, there was a figure at the far end of the room. I hadn't seen anyone. I hadn't heard anything, but the camera saw him. Zooming in, it was clearly a man, standing, watching. I turned sharply, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Empty. But when I checked the next photos I took, he was getting closer. Shot after shot, he was inching forward, frame by frame. I never saw him move, never heard a step. Then the shutter clicked, but this time the flash went off, and for a split second, I saw him. A pale face, mouth slightly open, eyes reflecting light like a cat's. Just feet away, I ran, tripping over rubble, gasping for breath, nearly losing my gear. I burst out into the night, heart thundering like a drumline. I didn't look back, not until I got home. When I loaded the memory card, the last photo was of me. Not me running, not me scared, just me, standing still, looking into the lens. The angle suggested someone else had taken it. I never went back to that post office, and now when I take pictures, I always check who or what is already watching. Story 6, The Vanishing Hitchhiker. There's something about long drives at night that feels both peaceful and deeply unsettling. I was coming back from a wedding, driving solo across state lines. The roads were empty, and the moon lit the pavement just enough to make me forget how isolated I really was. Then I saw her, a young woman standing on the shoulder of the highway, thumbing for a ride. She looked like she was in her early 20s, wearing a light dress far too thin for the cold. Against my better judgment, I pulled over. She got in, thanked me quietly, and stared straight ahead. Her voice was soft, her smile small but genuine. She said she was heading to a town just ahead, a name I didn't recognize. We drove mostly in silence. I asked if she had family waiting. She didn't answer. But after 10 minutes, she said something strange. "You're the first one who stopped in a long time." I didn't know how to respond. I just gave a nervous laugh. As we passed a small bridge, she pointed out the window. "That's where it happened." "What did?" I asked. She looked at me, her eyes glassy. "My car crashed. I died here." When I looked back at the road, panic tightened my grip on the wheel. I turned to look at her. She was gone. The seat was empty. The door never opened. I stopped the car, heart racing, checking everywhere. Nothing. I drove the rest of the way with the radio off. Weeks later, I searched the town she mentioned. It existed, and so did her accident. Same bridge, same dress, same face. They say some spirits don't move on. They just keep hitchhiking, hoping for one last ride home. Story 7, The Mirror in the Attic. My grandmother left me her house after she passed. A quiet 2-story Victorian with peeling white paint and a rose bush that hadn't bloomed in years. I moved in alone, using the time to reset my life. It was peaceful until I explored the attic. The stairs groaned with each step. The wooden door creaked like it hadn't opened in decades. Inside was clutter, boxes of forgotten keepsakes, dusty furniture, and one large mirror. It stood in the center, covered in a moth-eaten sheet. Something about it made my skin crawl. I pulled the sheet away. The mirror was antique, its frame ornate with twisted vines and small cherub faces. But it wasn't the design that bothered me. It was the reflection. I didn't see myself. Well, not exactly. I saw my shape, but the reflection was delayed. When I tilted my head, the figure in the mirror took a beat too long to follow. And then, one night, it didn't follow at all. I waved. It stood still. I walked away. It watched me. I tried to move the mirror out, but it wouldn't budge. I asked movers to come. They said no such mirror was in the attic, but I saw it every time I entered. And the reflection? It looked more like me, but not exactly. Paler, slightly off. Then came the knock. 3 a.m., soft knock at my attic door. I lived alone. I opened it. Empty room, except the mirror was facing me directly now. And the figure inside? It was smiling. I boarded up the attic after that. Haven't been back in years. But sometimes late at night, I hear footsteps above my ceiling. Soft, slow, mimicking mine. And I wonder, who's watching who? Story 8, The Man in the Crawl Space. It started with a smell, a sour, earthy odor that wafted through the vents in the middle of the night. I thought maybe a rodent had died under the floorboards. I lived in an older house alone, and weird smells weren't uncommon. But this was different, metallic, damp, wrong. One night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing a faint thump, thump, like someone crawling underneath me. So I pulled back the rug in the hallway and lifted the old wooden hatch that led to the crawl space. The darkness hit me like a wave. The flashlight barely pierced it. Cobwebs hung like curtains. Dirt and roots twisted between beams. But something else caught my eye. Drag marks in the dust. I followed them. About 6 feet in, I found a blanket, then a spoon, then a moldy paper plate. Someone had been living there. Then I heard it. A gasp. Not mine. I turned the light and saw a pair of eyes staring back at me. Wide. Unblinking. Human. He bolted deeper into the crawl space before I could even react. I scrambled out and called the police. They searched the space. Nothing. But that night, as I locked my doors and tried to sleep, I heard a soft knock coming from under the floor. Then silence. Next morning, every window in my house was unlocked, and the attic hatch was open. I sleep with a hammer next to my bed now, but sometimes in the silence of 3 a.m., I swear I hear something shifting beneath me, waiting. Story 9, The Static Caller. The first call came at 3:12 a.m. The phone rang only once, long enough to wake me, but short enough to leave me unsure. I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, before drifting back to sleep. The second call came the next night. Again, one ring, then silence. I checked the caller ID. It just read, unknown. The third night I answered, static, not silence, just hissing, crackling noise, like the dead channels on old televisions. I said, hello? Nothing. Then a voice, distant and garbled, like underwater, whispered something. Let me in. I slammed the phone down. It kept happening. Every night, same time, always static, always the whisper at the end. I disconnected the landline, tossed the phone. The next night my cell rang. Same thing. Static. Whispering. Let me in. I turned it off. No more calls. But that night, I heard a different sound. Tapping on the window. I live on the 3rd floor. I peeked through the curtain. Nothing. But on the window glass, in the morning dew, was a handprint. Small, childlike, and written underneath, smeared with a fingertip. Let me in. Story 10. The Cold Thing in the Tent. Camping alone was something I used to love. There was a peace in it. Just me, the forest, a fire, and the stars. One fall evening, I set up camp deep in the national forest. I pitched my tent near a small clearing, started a fire, made dinner, and settled in. The night was quiet, too quiet. At around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of soft crunching, footsteps. At first I thought it was a deer. Then I heard breathing, not animal breathing, human, shallow, slow. I froze in my sleeping bag, barely daring to breathe. The steps circled my tent. I could hear them, deliberately moving around me. Then, silence. I waited. Minutes passed, maybe more. I started to relax, thinking maybe I imagined it. Then the side of the tent collapsed inward, like someone pressed their entire body against it, right beside my head. I didn't move. I didn't speak. Then, it dragged. Whatever it was, it slid slowly down the side of the tent, cold and smooth like ice. When I finally dared to unzip the flap and shine my flashlight, nothing. No tracks, no animals, no signs anyone had been there. But later, when I packed up to leave, I noticed something chilling. On the outside of the tent, etched in the fabric, were 4 long claw-like marks, thin, precise, like fingernails. Story 11, The Whispering Woods. My uncle owned a cabin deep in the Appalachian woods, isolated, off-grid. We used to go up there every summer. The last time I visited, I was 17. I stayed behind one night while everyone else hiked to a nearby lake. I had a headache and just wanted to rest. As dusk settled, the forest became unnervingly quiet. No birds, no bugs, just stillness. Then I heard it, a voice, whispering. It was faint, just at the edge of hearing. too soft to make out words, but constant, circling the cabin. I froze by the window, peering out into the dark woods. Nothing. Then I heard it again, closer, like someone was speaking, just outside the door. I turned off the lights, pressed my ear to the wall, still whispering. But then, the doorknob turned. Slowly, I backed away, heart hammering. There was no one else supposed to be back until morning. The knob turned again, then stopped, and suddenly, silence. I didn't sleep. I sat in a corner with a knife all night. When the sun rose, I went outside, walked around the cabin. On every tree surrounding the clearing were carvings, hundreds of them, symbols I didn't recognize, etched deeply into the bark, some old, some fresh. And in the dirt beneath the window, barefoot tracks, small, as if made by a child. No one believed me when they came back, but I haven't returned since. And sometimes, even now, when I walk past the woods near my home, I swear I hear it again. The whispering. Story 12, The Eyes Behind the Closet Door. We moved into the house in the spring. It was a rental, older, outdated, but cozy. My daughter Lily was 6 at the time. She chose the bedroom at the end of the hall, the one with the big closet and a little window. That first night, she didn't want to sleep alone. "Daddy," she whispered, "there's someone in the closet." I checked. Nothing. Just boxes and coats. The next night, same thing. She refused to sleep unless the closet door was shut tight and a nightlight was on. One night I forgot to close it. She screamed. I rushed in. She was pointing, trembling. There were eyes watching me. I looked. The closet was empty. I chalked it up to imagination. Then it happened to me. I woke one night to a sound, something breathing, heavy, rhythmic, from down the hall. I crept toward her room. The door was ajar. Inside, Lily was asleep. The closet door was open, and I swear, I saw them. 2 eyes, in the dark, not glowing, just there, watching. They blinked. I slammed the door shut and yanked Lily into my arms. The next day, we packed up and left. I broke the lease, paid whatever it cost. Some things aren't worth explaining, and some closets should never be left open. Story 13, The Man Who Followed Me Home. It was around 9:30 p.m. when I left my friend's apartment. I'd parked a few blocks away, and the neighborhood was quiet, dimly lit by flickering streetlights. As I walked, I had the strange feeling that I was being watched. I turned around, nothing. Then I heard footsteps, not right behind me, but keeping pace, steady, intentional. I sped up. So did they. I crossed the street. They crossed too. I ducked behind a parked car and peeked. A man, thin, tall, wearing a gray hoodie, face half in shadow, just standing there, not moving, just watching. I bolted, ran the last block to my car, slammed the door shut, locked it, and looked out the window. He was standing at the corner now, still not moving, just staring. I sped off. At home, I felt dumb. Maybe I was being paranoid. But then, I looked at my front porch camera the next morning. There he was, 1:14 a.m. Same guy, hoodie, just standing at the edge of my driveway. Then he walked up to the door and stared straight into the camera for 5 minutes. He never knocked, never tried to get in, just stood there. Then he walked away. I never saw him again, but I check that camera every night now, just in case he comes back. Story 14, The Crying Woman in the Stairwell. I used to live in a downtown apartment building, one of those old high-rises with concrete stairwells that echoed like a cave. I was coming home from work late, around midnight. The elevator was out, so I took the stairs to the sixth floor. That's when I heard it, crying, a woman, somewhere below me. It was faint, but unmistakable. Low, sorrowful sobs echoing up through the stairwell. "Hello," I called. No answer, just crying. I froze for a second, then started climbing again, faster. On the fourth floor landing, I paused. The crying stopped. I looked down the stairs, empty. But then, I heard the crying again, only now. It was above me, closer. I ran the last 2 flights, got to my floor, fumbled for my keys, slammed the door shut behind me. I looked through the peephole. Nothing. But then I heard it, right outside my door. Sobbing, followed by a whisper, "Why won't you help me?" I backed away, turned off the lights, held my breath. Eventually, it stopped. The next morning, I asked the building manager if anyone else had reported hearing anything strange in the stairwell. He nodded slowly. "Every few years," he said, "someone hears her. We think she was a tenant here. Long time ago. Fell down the stairs. Nobody found her for days." He looked at me serious. "Next time, don't stop." Story 15. The Cabin with No Roads. It was the kind of weekend getaway you dream about. An old cabin deep in the woods, surrounded by tall pines and complete silence. But the moment we arrived, something felt off. We'd booked it online. No reviews, just a few photos and coordinates. The host said it was off-grid, perfect for solitude. We had to park on a gravel pull-off and hike a mile in. That's the first red flag. No road, just a trail that looked barely used. But the cabin was there, dusty, cold, but standing. The first night, we heard scratching, outside, on the wooden walls, then tapping, like nails. 1, 2, pause, then again. We went out with flashlights. Nothing, not a single animal. Inside the fireplace wooden light, the generator flickered. The second night, we heard footsteps, on the roof, then above the bedroom ceiling. But there was no attic. We checked the next morning. The cabin was one level. No crawl space, no loft, just roof. We decided to leave, but the trail was gone. We searched for an hour. The trees looked the same in every direction. No signal, no path, just forest. It took us until dusk to find the pull-off again. We never figured it out, never found the trail again. And when I went back to check the booking site, the listing was gone, like it had never existed. Story 16. The bus that wasn't on the schedule. It was late, nearly 1 a.m. I'd missed the last train, and the taxi line was packed. That's when I saw it, a city bus pulling up across the street. Odd, because this stop wasn't serviced past midnight, but there it was. Doors opening with a hiss, no number, just special on the front. I hesitated, then boarded. The driver didn't speak, just nodded. The bus was empty, not a single passenger, just dim overhead lights buzzing and a faint smell of something old, like dust and mothballs. I sat near the back, watched as we passed unfamiliar roads, streets I'd never seen, even though I'd lived in this city for years. Then I noticed, and we weren't stopping. No lights, no brakes, no new passengers, just driving. I stood up, went to the driver. "Hey, where are we headed?" I asked. He didn't respond, just stared ahead, eyes glassy, no blinking. I backed away, heart pounding. Then the windows started to fog. Words appeared. "You wanted a ride." I grabbed the emergency lever. Nothing. I turned around. The seats behind me were now full. Silent passengers, blank faces, staring straight ahead. I screamed. pounded on the doors, and suddenly I was back at the stop. No bus, just street lights. And in my hand, a paper ticket, one word stamped on it: return. Story 17, The Thing Under the Hospital. When I was a medical student, I volunteered for late night shifts in the basement archive room of the university hospital. No one liked going down there. The records were physical, old patient files stacked in metal cabinets that lined endless corridors. The air smelled like iodine and mold. It was the kind of place that made your skin crawl without explanation. But one night, I heard something beneath the hum of the fluorescent lights. A knock, not on the door, on the floor. 3 slow knocks, hollow. From beneath me, I froze. Then again, knock, knock, knock. I stomped the floor, knocked back. Silence, then scraping, like claws or nails on metal. I grabbed a flashlight and followed the sound toward the old elevator shaft, sealed off years ago after an accident. When I reached it, the grating noise stopped. I looked down into the shaft, pitch black, and then eyes, reflecting light, staring up at me, wide, human-shaped, but wrong. Then they blinked and disappeared. Security swept the basement, found nothing, but the next day an intern quit, said he saw a child walking the hall in a hospital gown, dragging a rusty IV pole. Only, we had no pediatric patients in that wing, and no records of anyone matching that description. Just one entry, scrawled in pen at the end of a forgotten file: do not disturb the one beneath. Story 18, The Final Apartment on Floor 6. Back when I was apartment hunting in the city, I came across an old building with surprisingly cheap rent. 6th floor, corner unit. The landlord seemed eager, too eager, to close the deal. He handed me the keys quickly, told me only one rule: don't bother apartment 6F. I asked why. He just said they keep to themselves. Strange, but I didn't care. I needed a place. The apartment was dusty but cozy. I spent my first night listening to the creaks and distant plumbing. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hall, then a knock, not at my door. At 6F, 3 knocks, silence. Then a voice, muffled, crying. I peeked through the peephole, saw a woman standing there, pale, hair soaked. She looked like she'd walked through a thunderstorm, but the weather was dry. She just stood there, whispering something I couldn't hear. After a minute, the door opened just a crack. A pale hand reached out, took her inside. The door slammed. I backed away. Didn't sleep. Next morning, I asked the landlord about it. He froze. There's no one in 6F, he whispered. It's been sealed for years. No water, no power. Condemned. But I saw it. I heard it. That night I walked past 6F and noticed something I hadn't before. The peephole on its door was glowing, like an eye, watching me back. Story 19, The Man in the Woods Who Knew My Name. Every summer, my family would rent a remote cabin near the woods for a week of peaceful disconnect. One afternoon, I wandered off the trail, deeper than usual, chasing my dog who darted off after a rabbit. I lost sight of her and called out her name. That's when I heard it. Someone else, calling my name. Not my dog, a voice, a man's voice. Low, calm, clear. He said it again. James. I froze. No one knew me out here. I turned and spotted him standing between the trees. Tall, dirty clothes, a wide smile that never moved his eyes. James, he said again, you dropped this. He held up a stick. I didn't drop a stick. I ran. Hours later, I made it back to the cabin. My parents were furious. I'd been gone nearly 5 hours. They said a ranger had found me wandering by the riverbank, days saying nothing. I remembered none of it. That night, while lying in bed, I heard a whisper outside my window. James. I looked out. There he was, and standing just beyond the tree line, smiling, and in his hand, the same stick. I never went back. I never even told my parents. But every year since, on that same day, I get a letter. No return address, no message. Just a stick, wrapped in twine. Thank you for listening to Reddit Horror Stories. If you made it this far, you're braver than most. But remember, these stories were told by real people. People like you. And horror doesn't always stay in the dark corners of the internet. Subscribe for more. Stay safe. Stay aware.